Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Meetinghouse of Provincetown, where we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and where we support each other on our spiritual search for truth and meaning. My name is Rev Kate Wilkinson, and I am so glad that you are here. Welcome to those of you in the room, and welcome also to those of you joining us via our live stream. This morning is our annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. service, and I am joined in leading this service by Pastor Brenda Haywood, who will be offering the chalice lighting and the prayer this morning. In 1963, Brenda was in Washington, D.C. to listen to Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech in person. So while I will reflect a little bit today about how it feels to look back on Martin Luther King's ministry, I am so honored to be joined by someone who was actually there, who experienced it firsthand, and who, more importantly, has been active in her own ministry for racial justice ever since. Thank you, Brenda. Before we go on with our service, I have just a few announcements to share. A reminder that our office administrator, Kenneth, is on vacation until Thursday, so please call ahead before coming by to see if the offices are open. We have volunteers covering a few hours each day, and thank you so much to our volunteers. And do note that the office is closed tomorrow for Martin Luther King Day. And speaking of Martin Luther King Day, tomorrow I will be joining other members of Racial Justice Provincetown at the annual MLK Walk being held in Wellfleet. All are invited to join us. Please do bundle up. The day begins with drumming and singing at 12:30 in front of Wellfleet Town Hall, and then continues with a silent walk to the library and back at 1 o'clock. You can make your own signs or borrow one of ours for that walk. And finally, after the walk, we will be warming up at Preservation Hall, where we will be blessed by a performance of the play Neighbors, a collection of short scenes and monologues discussing racism on the Cape and the exclusion that some neighbors feel in their own communities. Also at Preservation Hall is a fabulous art show for racial justice. I went to the opening reception earlier this week, and it is a stunning show with art from people of all ages, including at least two of our members. Kurt has a piece, and Myra has a couple pieces in there, so you definitely want to check out that art show. Thank you to Art Peacemakers for organizing all of these events. I hope to see you there. We also hope that those of you joining us in person will join us for coffee hour downstairs after the service today. And on Tuesday evenings, we have a Zoom coffee hour each week to discuss the question of the week and also to share in a ritual of joys and sorrows. All are welcome to log on with us, so please let me know if you need that link. And finally, I do have a very sad announcement to make, and that is that our dear Cricket passed away on Friday evening. Betty Comey, who we affectionately called Cricket, as her mom used to do when she was a little girl, would have turned 101 next month. She was a beloved member of this congregation who, up until just a few months ago, sat right there on Sundays with the Seashore Point crowd. She was smart and funny and a talented musician. She taught Tai Chi and played ping pong and loved nature, and we are going to miss her very much. And I also want to let you know about the passing of Reverend Patience Gardner. She was the minister here in 1989. So please take a moment to hold both of those women on our hearts this morning as I light a candle of memory in their honor. you. Now let's take a moment to affirm our community's covenant. You can find this on the little purple laminated cards in your pews, or you can just listen line by line as I say it. I invite you to repeat each line after me. Love is the spirit of this meeting house.
Love is the spirit of this meeting house.
This is our great covenant.
This is our great covenant.
To dwell together in peace.
To dwell together in peace.
To seek the truth in love.
To seek the truth in love.
And to help one another. And now, as we light our chalice here in the sanctuary, I invite those of you watching online to light a candle wherever you are. In this way, we can feel connected even while we are apart. I invite Brenda to light our chalice for us.
This flame is mine, as well as yours. We are brought together today, called to growth, to expansion within its glow. What does your heart know while beholding this holy fire?
Thank you. Please join us now in singing our opening hymn, number 168 in the gray hymnals. That's number 168, One More Step. And Brenda is going to play all of our hymns this morning once all the way through before we join in on the verses. Please rise as you are able for 168, One More Step. Seated. I invite you now into a time of meditation and prayer. During this time, or At any time during the service, you are welcome to light a silent candle at the table to the right of the pulpit, where there is a journal to record your thoughts and prayers. Today we won't be singing Spirit of Life as we usually do after the prayer. We will be singing a different hymn, which I will announce after Brenda leads us in a prayer. And we're just quickly changing over some batteries before she can do that. Thank you, Brenda.
Our prayer this morning is by Reverend Wayne Aronson. I invite you now into a quiet time, a time for spoken and silent contemplation. Spirit of life, we have come into each other's presence this day, seeking a part of ourselves, knowing that we do not live alone, and knowing we cannot live fully if we are for ourselves alone. We gather in thanks for the life and ministry of Martin Luther King Jr., not because we wish to worship him as a saint, but because we wish to embody his dream as a possibility we make real. We gather with full knowledge of our shortcomings. Our lives set before us many tasks, and often we are not equal to them. We fall short of our own expectations. We find we do not know enough. We are not always patient. We fall into anger. We cannot find the strength. We lack the vision. We wait in vain for wisdom. It is painful to acknowledge our shortcomings. Yet we are here, Spirit of Life. We are here. Not always perfect, not always wise, but not always just, but wonderfully and mysteriously human and alive. We dedicate this time together to renewing our hope. May the stories we share give us courage. May the songs we sing give us hope. May the words we speak give us wisdom. And most of all, may the touch of hands, the sight of faces, the sound of voices, lifted in song and affirmation, restore in us faith that this world may be made whole with all its people one. Amen. May it be so.
Won't you please join me in singing our next hymn? This one's in the teal hymnal. It's number 1017, Building a New Way. That's 1017 in the teal hymnal, Building a New Way. And once again, Brenda's going to play it all the way through for us before we start singing. Please rise as you are able. may be seated. Today, for our Time for All Ages, we're going to show you two beautiful bowls. Oh.
I was so excited to show you this bowl I made, but I broke it on the way here this morning, and now I'm feeling upset. Can we try to fix it?
Well, I didn't break it.
I know you didn't break it, but I was hoping you might help me fix it anyway.
I mean, help you fix it even though I didn't break it. Because I just need you to understand that I'm a good person and I don't go around breaking bowls.
It's important to me that we figure out how to fix this bowl because it means a lot to me even though you didn't break it.
Okay then. Do you have any ideas about like how we could fix the bowl?
Well, maybe a glue gun or...
I have a glue stick.
I'm not sure that's strong enough.
Okay.
Maybe,
Some tape? I've got painter's tape.
that helps break, I mean...
Okay. Let's see what I got paper clips, scrunchies, and toothpaste.
Okay, wait. I have another. I have another idea. Maybe we could just buy something to like fix it over.
Here's the thing. I don't want to spend a lot of money on this because I didn't break it, and my bowl's fine.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. I think you're right. Oh, I have an idea too. It's called kintsugi. Have you ever heard of kintsugi?
No, what's kintsugi?
It's an ancient Japanese art of repairing broken pottery and ceramics. And they use gold to highlight the beauty of the imperfections that remain when a broken item has been repaired, like showing the scars.
Oh, wow. So what I'm hearing you say is that the point of kintsugi isn't to hide the broken parts?
That's right. The gold is used to remind the user over and over that something that once was broken can be repaired and whole again, and then it has a different beauty.
Oh, I like that. In a way, that's kind of what happens when other things break, right?
What kind of things?
Well, like friendships, relationships. Sometimes we hurt each other's feelings and it's like the thread between two people breaks. But as Unitarian Universalists, we don't ignore that. We try to rebuild the relationship so that it's stronger than it was before.
I agree. The work of healing is all our jobs, no matter how big or small we are. And when we repair our mistakes with love and with our covenant, we remember that our relationships are more beautiful once we acknowledged hurt, asked forgiveness, corrected our mistakes, and then make a sacred promise to do better in the future.
Ooh, what do you have there?
This is a kintsugi bowl.
Oh,
That-
wow.
It's beautiful all the way around, even the part that's missing.
Oh, I see that. It's gorgeous. And I'm sorry I got defensive earlier. And also that I didn't want to spend my resources on something I didn't feel affected me.
It's okay.
I see that I did that. And I promise to do better in the future.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
you. Let's sing again, shall we? Our next hymn is in the gray hymnal again. It's number 151, and it's called I Wish I Knew How. That's 151, I Wish I Knew How. Brenda's going to play it all the way through for us. Please rise as you are able. Thank you. You may be seated. Now is the time in our service where we take a collection for the ongoing support of this Meetinghouse and our shared ministry. As we enjoy a musical reflection by our choir, we welcome your donations here in the sanctuary or online through PayPal or Venmo. You can find that information on our website, uumh.org. And there are QR cards in the pews as well. I invite 2 volunteer ushers forward to take up the collection. On and off-site, your offerings will now be gratefully received.
can make us great. Let love roll down like a mighty stream.
Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. Let your love roll down like a mighty stream.
When brutality threatens our daughters and sons, let peace roll down, roll down. When our voices ring out above the guns, let peace roll down like a mighty stream.
Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. Let peace roll down like a mighty stream. When fists rise up to strike a blow, let songs roll down, roll down. May poets remind us of what we know. Let songs roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the day gets rough, we'll make a new way. Let songs roll down like a mighty stream. Step by step, one by one, let justice roll down, roll down. They can kill the prophet, but none lives on. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream.
Thank you, choir. You knocked it out of the park today. Beloved, you must not be defensive when you hear our hurt. My friend, Reverend Dr. Rebecca Savage, writes, "My dear friends," she says, "please try to understand that whiteness is universal and invisible. You swim in its waters and you breathe in its air and take for granted that whiteness is the status quo. That's why many of you are offended by any reference to race. You believe you are acting and thinking neutrally, objectively, without preference for one group or the next, including your own. You see yourselves as colorless until people of color dump the garbage of race on your heads. You have no idea how absurd and hurtful that notion is, yet we have grown accustomed to your defiance of our pain, struggle, and daily reality. Sometimes I fall into this trap. Do you? The trap of thinking of my own experience as the norm. The trap of thinking of my own thoughts and ideas as neutral. The trap of wanting so badly to prove that I am a good person that I prioritize my intentions over how I am being received. The trap of avoiding conflict in relationship instead of working through conflict as a way to make a relationship stronger. I forget the beauty of kintsugi. Gosh, there are so many traps, aren't there? Sometimes I fall into this trap. Do you? The trap of when I think about civil rights and when I think about justice and when I think about Martin Luther King particularly, I spend a lot of time wondering what I would have done had I been alive and active in justice movements in his time. Would I have gone to Selma? I ask myself. Would I have sat at a lunch counter or driven through the South on a bus during Freedom Summer? Would I have gone to Washington, D.C. for the Poor People's Campaign? And I know a lot of you were alive during his time, and some of you were also active in justice movements in his time, and so your trap might be a little different than mine. But maybe your trap is thinking, I wish I had acted differently in that time, knowing what I know now. Knowing the importance of it, I wish I had gone to Selma or to Washington, D.C., or joined the Black Panthers, or whatever your longing or regret might be on Martin Luther King Day. And maybe there are a few of you who, like Brenda, were there for some of these moments and actions and lived realities. But maybe even you have some things you wish you had known or done differently. And it's not that these are not valuable thought exercises, right? But the reason I call it a trap is that it spends our energy, our justice-driven heart energy, thinking about the past. And it feeds this idea that we have missed it, missed our opportunity to be part of history, part of change-making. Now, this is not the same thing as wishing for those hateful times to be here again. It's about how we think of our role in history and how we teach history and civic engagement. And it's a trap because it makes us feel like all the important work or the most meaningful social movements, or the most holy ones anyway, have already happened. And something that helps me to move on from that sort of stuckness is remembering that during Martin Luther King Jr.'s life, people didn't like him very much. I'm serious. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the man who we have a portrait of hanging in our parish hall, the man we celebrate with his own day on the national calendar, was once called the most dangerous man in America by the FBI. And he had a 17,000-page FBI file at the time of his death. And it wasn't just KKK members or those in positions of power who disagreed with him or even hated him. As Cornel West tells us in his book, The Radical King, by the time of King's death, most of the country didn't like him. The black civil rights leadership was trashing him. The white establishment had rejected him. The young black revolutionaries were dismissing him. Over the course of his life, King was not a man who was loved by most. In fact, he was hated by a lot of people. He was an incredibly maligned man by the time that he died. And yet we never talk about that. My colleague Aisha Ansano wrote about this in a piece called The Flawed Understanding of Martin Luther King Jr., which I have been quoting from. Instead of talking about how radical or how hated he was, Aisha says, we praise and honor him and hold him up as the highest standard of the struggle for justice. We as a society measure all who struggle for justice against who we have decided Dr. King was, a sanitized version of the actual man. As a society, we tell activists that their protests are too unruly, their demands are too harsh, their voices too strident, their methods too stringent. We have decided as a society that there is one way to struggle for justice, and it's the way that we like to imagine King struggled for justice, even though that's not the way he actually did. In the summer of 2016, Aisha reminds us, protesters took to the streets all around the country, condemning police brutality and proclaiming that Black Lives Matter. As has happened over and over again with these sorts of protests, many people criticized their methods and tactics. In a press conference, Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed stated, "Dr. King would never take a freeway." Anyone remember the kind of powerful thing that King organized? The marches from Selma to Montgomery, the ones that entailed several hundred people walking down a highway and crossing a bridge, blocking cars from being able to drive on it. This is such a great reminder that Aisha offers us. We remember that picture so vividly of people arm in arm crossing that bridge, right? But do we ever think about the people in their cars who were pissed, who were late for work? Could there have been an ambulance that needed to cross that bridge? Of course there could have been. It was a busy bridge. I bet most of you even know the name of it, the Edmund Pettus Bridge. We know that name. But did you know that the Edmund Pettus Bridge carries US Route 80? It was a major highway. It was inconvenient. It was controversial, not just because of the movement's goals, but because of the tactics. The flawed understanding of King is everywhere, Aisha says, and it has seeped into our society's understanding of what is acceptable or appropriate in the struggle for racial justice. On Martin Luther King Day, we think about that bridge. And it can be a trap, keeping us in the past or making it feel like racism is over. Or it can be a thought exercise that calls us into the future. Let's think beyond Martin Luther King in that moment for a second. I'm thinking about the everyday, unknown people who were on that bridge with him. People like people in this room. They didn't know that this one protest would be a turning point in history. They were probably scared. I mean, they were in danger. They faced violence from the police. It turned into Bloody Sunday. But before that, I bet some of them were also unsure. Not unsure about the goals, but is this what we should be doing? Is this the guy we should be following? Is disrupting traffic the most effective way to make change right now, or should we be trying another way? If I don't feel 100% confident right now, does this make me an imposter? If I'm white, am I here for the right reasons? Am I a good ally or just posturing? I actually said a wrong thing to the person standing next to me, and I didn't mean to, but I offended them, and now I see why, and I feel so stupid, and I am still learning. So should I even be here? These things do not show up in the pictures. But I can guarantee that in addition to the fierceness and the determination and the bravery and the love and the surety that showed up that day on the bridge, these other things were there also. But when we sanitize the past, when we make saints out of our dead leaders and activists, when we forget that a movement was more than a man but required hundreds of thousands of people, when we look back already having an idea of the scope of a thing and how it turned out, and take sides knowing that that moment is over and it's safe to do so, it kind of excuses us from taking responsibility in our own time. It kind of lets us off the hook of looking around at our own lives and seeing what movements we might be a part of today, of what injustices are happening today, of what smaller, more local, or more personal situations we are a part of, and what role we are playing in them. The question for Martin Luther King Day is not, what would I have done in that time, in those historical events? Or even, what would I do today, faced with obvious examples of racism where choosing sides is clear? The question for Martin Luther King Day, and for every day really, is what do I do now? What do I do when things are not cut and dry, when I am not necessarily sure of myself, when I do not have a group to join or a leader to follow, but when someone makes a small comment, a microaggression? Did they mean it? Am I being too sensitive? Will I make a scene if I say something? Should I let that one slide? This is not history-making stuff. This is just everyday life. Does it matter? The question for Martin Luther King Day and for our day is, am I a part of the Black Lives Matter movement? Or do I let criticisms of that movement keep me from it? That they are too strident, or their tactics are not ones I support, or that all lives matter, so I am not part of Black Lives Matter. The question for Martin Luther King Day and for our lives is, how am I showing up? If someone calls me out on my own racism, or internalized racism, or an impact that did not match up with my intention, do I get defensive? Or do I seek to understand, to apologize, to do better next time, to heal that brokenness with the golden glue that will make my relationships stronger and more authentic? The question for Martin Luther King Day and for us as Unitarian Universalists is, am I awake to the racism and injustices that exist today? Do I see it? Do I pay attention to it? Do I say something about it? I want to tell you a story about something that happened just the other day. Reverend Dr. William Barber decided to go to the movies. Do you know William Barber? You should know William Barber. He is an amazing civil rights leader working today in our time. He is a minister and a professor at Yale Divinity School. He was president of the NAACP. He has revived Martin Luther King's Poor People's Campaign, and he is the one that led the Moral Mondays civil rights protests in North Carolina's state capital, Raleigh. But the other day, he wanted to go to the movies. He wanted to see The Color Purple. Now, if you don't know, Reverend Dr. Barber, then I should tell you that he's a big man, like a really big man, and he has arthritis, and he walks with 2 canes. And because of his size and because of these medical issues he has, he cannot sit in a regular chair because it causes major pain in his hips. So an assistant carries a special chair so that he can sit everywhere he goes. And he's used this chair at Broadway shows and when he went to the White House even. So he brought this chair with him when he went to the movies. And he went to the accessible section of the theater like we have here, and he set up the chair where additional space is provided for wheelchairs and scooters. But the movie theater staff didn't like that. In fact, they told him that he could not do that, and that if he couldn't sit in a regular seat, he would have to go. And then when he was trying to explain things to them, they called the police. This was at an AMC theater in Greenville, North Carolina. And they called the police and they reported him for arguing with the staff and for trespassing. Now, Reverend Dr. Barber had actually brought his elderly mother to this movie as well. So now she had to see her son being escorted out of the theater by police. And everyone in that theater watched as he was escorted out. And some people filmed it so that there was a record. And some people made comments like, "See what they do to people? This is Bishop Barber." And what did William Barber do? As he was escorted out of the theater by police, he prayed out loud, "God, I ask you to bless them, to move in them, because they know what they're doing is wrong." And he said loudly, "I want the children to see this because they're going to deal with it." In a statement later, he said, "This is just about how we say to disabled folks, there's no room at the inn if you don't come a certain way." Did any of you hear about this story? No, it was just in the news. Yeah. So let's use our moral imaginations for a minute. Just like we do when we think about the distant past, I want you to place yourself in this story. I invite you to put yourself into the position not of Reverend Dr. Barber, because let's face it, none of us is going to be him, okay? Just like none of us is going to be Martin Luther King. And you know what? Let's not even put ourselves in the position of the policeman who responded, who had the power of their uniforms, or the position of the theater manager who had the power of their role. Let's put ourselves in the position of someone else in the movie theater, just a theater goer. Someone excited to see the color purple with our friends or our family, or maybe we are there by ourselves. How would you respond in this moment? Think about that to yourself for a minute. How would I respond? Thank you for thinking about that with me. I wonder if, in your imaginations, you felt powerless. I wonder if, in your imaginations, you drew on the power you do have. When things like that happen, our conscience says to us, I don't think this is right. Something's not right here. And then we have a choice. Our voice can say, I am watching what is happening here, and I do not think it is right. And maybe we don't feel like these are powers, our conscience and our voice. Because maybe our conscience isn't even super sure, right? A tiny voice inside us might also be saying, well, I've actually never seen a chair like that, and I'm not disabled myself, so I'm not totally clear on the rules here. Or it might be saying, it might not even be because he's black. I mean, look, one of those officers is black herself. And we might not feel powerful because our voice might even squeak when we do speak up. And we might not be as eloquent as we want to be. And after all, we are not living in 1965, and this is not the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and we do not have Martin Luther King in front of us. But that was not the only powerful time. We can be powerful today. And our power is the power of our conscience that feels things in the pit of our stomach. And our power is our voice that we use every other day for other things. And our power, if we can access this, is the trust that others might join us if we can be brave enough to be the first to speak. History has shown that this can happen. And our power is that we know from experience that speaking up, even if we make a fool of ourselves, actually feels better than the regret that we feel if we do not listen to that ache in the pit of our stomach that tells us that something isn't right here. And our power is that we have this community that we can process these things with afterwards for support or encouragement or to bail us out if things go horribly wrong. Now, I want to acknowledge right now that this situation plays out very differently for a white person than for a person of color. I've been using my moral imagination to try to imagine what I would do if I was in that theater, and I'm doing so as a white woman who is a minister, and a white woman whose disability is invisible most of the time. People of color have to make these same decisions every day, multiple times a day. And I'm sure a lot of people in that theater were black and had to make this exact decision of how to respond. But I'm just recognizing here that if you are a person of color, your calculations are a little different because the risk is different. The power dynamics are different. And the frequency and intensity of these situations is different. So it might not just be about, will I make a fool of myself? Or I don't want to upset the apple cart. It might involve questions like, am I safe right now? Do they have a gun? Do they have a body camera? Will I lose my job or my life? Part of white privilege is that we do not have to tend to make these assessments. And the stakes are lower for those of us who are white. And another calculation a person of color might have to make is, do I have the energy to do the emotional labor of saying something right now when this situation reminds me so much of all the injustices that I have had to face in my own life? And when this is the umpteenth unfairness and injustice and insult that I have witnessed or experienced this week. So that is something I acknowledge when I ask you to do this moral imagination exercise. And I also acknowledge that this particular example, this story, points to a couple of different isms, right? It has to do with racism, and it has to do with ableism, and probably ageism. And this is how life works. There are overlapping isms. There is intersectionality. And we might find that as we wake up to one ism, we start seeing the other ones more clearly as well. And we might come to understand that a black man with a disability faces these challenges twice as often as a white man with a disability. My math might be wrong there. Or that a black trans woman with a disability has more to navigate than I can ever imagine, no matter how active my moral imagination is. But we do not have to have perfect imaginations. We do not have to know just the right words to say. We do not have to be fully confident in ourselves. And we do not have to wait for another Martin Luther King Jr. to make meaningful change. Because history is still happening. In the future, they will call this time history. And we were in it. We are in it. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And we can start where we are, when we are, with who we are, to help bend it. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. It has become our practice to pose a question based on the theme of the service each week. It can be a topic of sharing at coffee hour today or with friends during the week. If you'd like to delve deeper into this question, we invite you to join us at our Zoom coffee hour on Tuesday evening at 5. Please let me know if you need that link. It is often hard to know what to say when we see injustice happening right in front of us, and it can be useful to have a line or two ready to use in those situations. Just a few words that we can memorize and practice even, so that they come out more easily in the moment. So our question this week is, what is a phrase that you can keep in your pocket to use when you see an injustice? What is a phrase that you can keep in your metaphorical pocket to use when you see an injustice? And I'll end with these closing words by Kimberly Quinn Johnson, who quotes the words of the incredible June Jordan from her poem for South African women. Dear ones, we are the ones we have been waiting for. We are not perfect, but we are perfectly fitted for this day. We are not without fault, but we can be honest to face our past as we chart a new future. We are the ones we have been waiting for. May we be bold and courageous to chart that new future. May we have faith in a future that is not known. We are the ones we have been waiting for. Go in peace.